Hi, this is Piotr Krupiewski. In today's video, I will show you how to create the perfect velvet in SketchUp and V-Ray software. In the description of this video, there is a link to download the ready-made material in VR matte format. But before you download it and start using it, I suggest watching this 11-minute material first. Let's start from the beginning. I have a chair with golden legs and an upholstered top at my disposal. The upholstery at this moment does not yet resemble the titular velour, but we'll take care of that in a moment. What is worth noting at this stage is how well textured this chair is. It is very important to have a model available where the texture is distributed continuously and wraps around. Only then will the effect we achieve in this tutorial be truly satisfactory. It's not enough to create the right material, you also need to properly texture the 3D model. Because if this texture looked like this, then we can't expect the velvet to lay well on it. Remember then to first ensure that your object is well textured. I choose Create Material and name it Velvet Material. I also choose to use the texture image to take advantage of the texture I prepared earlier. You can find the link to download this map below in the description of the video. I choose Open, and in this way I create the material. Alright, so I have velvet. Now I need to go into V-Ray. I'll choose Asset Editor from the icons or the V-Ray extensions and Asset Editor. Here in the first materials icon, I have the option to select materials that are in my scene. Currently, the active material is Sketch UV Texture, which is the basic unfolded texture with letters and numbers. On a sample model, on a sample 3D geometry, it shows me how such a material will look. In the same way I can preview velvet, which at the moment probably looks more like some kind of concrete. First I select Sketch UV Texture, choose with the right click and select Objects in Scene. This way I will highlight all objects using this material in my scene, so the seat of my chair. Now velour on the right and apply to the selection. This way I will replace this material, changing the existing numbers and letters to the appropriate velour material. As you can see, the material has been replaced, but as I mentioned, it's not yet the material we care about. In the V-Ray Asset Editor, we have the V-Ray MTL tab, which if we expand, we also have the Diffuse channel. Diffuse is responsible for the basic color, so the first parameter is diffuse. I see that something is loaded in its slot. I know this because I have a blue checkerboard. Gray means there's nothing here. If I go inside here, it's like I'm entering the hierarchy of this model, so in the center of the velour, I have a bitmap, as indicated by the text in the work window. I don't need this texture as the base texture. Instead of a bitmap, I click here, I change it to mix map. If I click this, I have access to slightly different parameters. The point is to mix two color parameters, color top and color bottom, based on my mix map. The map, which I will point out right now by choosing bitmap and pointing again to my velour map. So the velour map is currently in my mix map. Now I will be able to choose the top color and the bottom color, which will replace the white color and the black color on this map. As the top color, I'm choosing the target color that would be my velvet, let's say something like that. Now the bottom color, not black, but again some dark green. Thanks to using my map, instead of the white color, the top color appeared, which is light green. Instead of black, dark green appeared on this map, which I chose. This is how I mixed the colors using the source texture, and now it looks a bit better in the preview. But what happened to the velvet? In the SketchUp preview, here the view of this texture has been replaced with what's called an auxiliary texture. We can change this in the binding tab. Instead of auto in texture mode, choose custom mode. Custom mode will allow you to choose any texture, which we can put in here. I can choose this texture from here by selecting copy to copy this texture and returning to the appropriate slot to paste it as an instance. Pasting as an instance will make the familiar texture visible in the preview again. Actually, it doesn't have the color that we see in V-Ray. This can't be done in SketchUp, but at least we can see where to expect dark and light spots. This way we manage to replicate the first feature of velvet, which is such an ambiguous color surface. And how will it look in the render? Let's check by selecting Render. It looks pretty good already, but I won't stop there. The next important feature of velour is a certain difference in brightness depending on how you look at it. It's hard to explain exactly, but it's easy to replicate in V-Ray with a certain parameter. To do this, I'll first need to create another layer. I add layers here, add layer, and choose V-Ray MTL to make it the same layer we had before. V-Ray material. So I have V-Ray material 1 and V-Ray material. I can arrange these layers as I like, and depending on which one is on top, that will be the one that creates the effect. In this layer, I would like to do something similar to the previous one, so I can copy this parameter from the diffuse channel and paste it. This time not as an instance, but as a copy, because if I do it as an instance, it will behave like a component. Therefore, any changes I make here will also automatically occur in the parameter below. And I would like this V-Ray MTL1 layer to be brighter. And for this purpose, I will change the top color and the bottom color to much lighter and slightly greener. I'm going more towards green and choosing a very light color. Color at the bottom similarly. I'm also going for green and somewhere around here, so that these are brighter colors. Now, as you can see in the preview, everything has changed to much brighter because V-Ray Material 1 is on top. I can change it this way. It's important to me that he is on top, but here comes the parameter we talked about a moment ago, which is called falloff. We need to add it in the opacity slot. Opacity here allows the possibility of inserting something in opacity. If your panel looks a bit different, just select these 3 lines here. It's a way to switch from the basic view to the view with advanced settings. Going back to our opacity, I'm putting the appropriate name here in the slot. I'm looking for falloff. The falloff will cause the opacity to change depending on the type of transformation we choose, and it will vary with the angle from which the object is viewed. It's that second quality of velvet which was so hard to describe in words, but which now can be clearly seen in the preview. So a slight decrease in saturation and brightening at the edges. Meanwhile, in the center we have this intense dark color. I would also suggest changing the falloff type to Fresnel in opacity. This gives much better results, especially if we change the Fresnel IOR to 1.2. I won't elaborate further on the properties of such materials, I just want this bright color to be pushed completely outside. We will be able to control the IOR parameter so that, for example, we can show it more or show it less, just like in the case of this 1.2. Previewing the material in V-Ray Asset Editor is one thing, but I want to see how it looks in the visualization. Instead of rendering the whole thing, I choose Region Render and select the area with my seat, then I render. This way, I don't have to wait for the entire visualization, it only renders the part I am interested in. Great, the difference is visible even to the naked eye. That's how it looked before. This is how it looks now. So we managed to reflect that second feature, and depending on how strong you want this effect to be, you choose opacity and increase Fresnel IOR. I'm sticking with parameter 1.2. And now I'll try to convey the third characteristic of velour, which is its texture. The material structure is controlled by the bump parameter. In the bump mode map, we again insert into the slot, this time another different parameter called cellular. Cellular is a kind of simulation of such a cellular pattern. If we choose the color center to be black and the edge color completely white, it will be even more visible. I'll leave the type as dots. As for the size, I'll have to change it drastically because what you're seeing now is the size of the whole map. The map will match what I have in the model, so these single hair cells will occupy a very large part of my texture. I will also leave density alone and set the spread to 0.4 to further increase the contrast in this transformation. I remind you that V-Ray considers white color as convex and black color as concave. So by using such a transformation, we can expect that where there is black color, it will be concave, and where there is white color, it will be convex. I'm not really interested in looking at this velvet from such a literally microbiological perspective. I'm more interested in it having a texture like this, granular, black and white, wrinkled, which will affect the quality of the material. Even in preview, we can see what to expect. We still need to reduce the amount because it is very strong, very powerful, very rough at the moment. I am changing it literally to 0.05 so that it is only slightly visible. And this is the last feature of velour that will make the V-Ray velour look just like the one we know from reality. So once again, I move on to visualization. I choose the well-known region render and render. Let's see what happens now. Okay, let's turn off region render. Here, the difference between the previous render and the current one is not visible to the naked eye. But if we compare it to what was before, we can see that here we have a smooth surface without any micro changes on this material. And look at what happens on the seat, or even somewhere here on the backrest, when I slide the slider. It turns out that we get a lot of that nice noise, those granules that represent the surface of velvet. Well, it makes you want to just run your hand over it. Let me remind you where we started. So this is our final render, and this is how it looked at the beginning. So we moved it from a beginner level to a very advanced velvet. I hope that now you too will be able to create such advanced material on your own furniture. At the same time, I'm warning you that some values may vary depending on lighting, scene, and model. Sometimes you'll need to choose a different Fresnel index of refraction and other bump parameters, because on different surfaces, even the size of, for example, the cellular parameter will also vary. If we want to change the color, we will have to change it in 4 places. So if we want to shift from green to blue, we should move the slider towards blue. The easiest way to remember this is that this slider should be between H and this line, and in this way you move everything without changing the brightness, in 4 places. Sometimes it can be cumbersome, a bit difficult to do, so this is how I make it easier for myself. If I go back now, you'll see I am dealing with this blue color. We can also try to render it. I click Region Render and Render. Great! We will end on this note. If you find this topic interesting and would like to develop your skills in SketchUp and V-Ray, I highly recommend the courses I conduct on cgwisdom.com. You will find many courses not only in SketchUp but also in other 3D graphics programs and artificial intelligence fields. Thanks for watching the whole movie, and I hope to hear from you.